Okay, welcome back to the course. Here we're in section 6 now. We're going to be talking about deploying your game to desktop and web. And before you do that, there are a few things you need to sort of look out for. And the first one of those is we want to look at your quality options. So let's head over to Unity and see what that is. All right, so I'm back in Unity here. And what I want to do is I want to go to Edit, and then I want to go to my project settings. And on Mac, of course, this is in a different place, which would be under the Unity tab here. But in Windows, it's Edit, Project Settings, and there are a couple of things to look at here. One is quality, which is the obvious one. So when you ship your game, Unity is going to create a little launcher window for you that's going to have these quality settings there. And essentially this allows you to sort of define what they mean. So you can select different ones, for example, high, very low, and you can remove these by clicking the trash can here. You can get rid of them, or you can add another one, so you can completely customize this. This list is just the default. This is what's provided for you out of the box. And so let's take a look at some of the things that you can change. So let's go to Ultra. And you'll see some of these differences here. So again, another thing, you can customize the name. These are the number of pixel lights. So how many lights you can have that affect things on a per pixel basis. The texture quality. This is nice if you want to be able to have your texture settings automatically get compressed depending on your quality. And by compress, I mean it'll just literally cut the resolution, full, half, quarter, eighth, which is nice. Anti-Aliasing, of course, disabled by default, and you can go up to 8x on the highest setting. Soft particles, they do require that you use deferred lighting, which we don't have turned on in this project, but you can do that. Real-time reflection probes, let me make that bigger. So this is going to allow you to create probes in the scene that will reflect the environment. So let me go ahead and do that just so you can see what we're talking about. So I'm going to go back to my scene here. It's getting close, turn off 2D mode because I don't need that. So the way it works is you go and create an object here in your scene, you go to light, and there's a reflection probe. So this reflection probe is essentially going to create a cube map out of the box that you define. So let's take a look here at where it went. So here's a reflection probe. I should want that here at the top level. And you can define the bounds of the box. You can set the box size to be, let's say 20, 20, 20. And offset it here, say 5. Right? And so when I hit bake, first of all, let's take a look at here. Let's get close to the probe. You see that the icon doesn't really, let's move this up so we can see it. It's gray, right? There's nothing going on here on the icon. When we hit bake, you'll see that it's changed color and it has to bake all the lighting, which may take a while. But essentially it's gathering all the lighting information and shooting rays out into the distance and collecting reflections on everything. So we disabled a lot of the lighting things in this project because it does take a while to build, but that's how you set up your reflection probes. And then when you want things to use reflection or lighting probes, you can go to the mesh render, and then you can set the reflection probe information here. Of course, you don't have to do this manually. Unity figures out a lot for you, but you have the ability to tweak a lot of these controls manually. Okay, so let's go back to the settings here and continue that. Okay, so back to quality. So that's reflection probes. Billboards, face camera position. A lot of these we didn't get into this course, so we're going to skip over, but of course the documentation can help you with this. And then we have shadows, distance shadow mask, which means that shadows basically switch between real-time and pre-baked ones at a certain distance, and that distance is defined here. So the further away this distance is, the further away you're going to draw real-time shadows. And of course, bringing that in closer makes a big difference in performance because you're going to have the baked information used on fewer things or more things, depending on how you set it. This is and so here we have our other settings. So blend weights, this would be if you have, rigged characters, 3D characters that are using mesh skinning, how many bones can affect a single vert. And so the blending happens here between 1 bone, 2 bones, or 4 bones. Vsync is important here. Essentially, sometimes you're rendering a little bit too fast, you may run into screen tearing where it looks like the screen is sort of splitting. You disable that with Vsync, but it depends on your platform. Desktop, of course, is a nice thing to have. But if the display can keep up with it, you can disable Vsync and just draw all the frames that you can. It just depends. So you probably want to provide this as an option for the user to turn on and off. And then there are just some different items here for level of detail bias and the maximum level of detail level. So level of detail system is not something we covered, but essentially it lets you to swap assets for varying distances. So up close, you'd have your hero model, which is very high quality, very dense one. And at farther distances, you would use a lower quality, fewer polygons, simpler version of that model, because it doesn't have to be as detailed because it looks smaller on screen. Okay, and here the light map is actually wrapping up the baking process. It does take a while depending on your machine. So here is mine. You can see now that it's done baking. It has collected all of the reflection information about the environment. And so you can use this for reflections on the environment. So for example, let's say I want to use reflection on, let's grab this cube here, and I go to its material. Let's give it a new material. Where should we put this? Let's put it in the sandbox. We'll create one under shader here. We'll create a material and we'll call it reflector, because why not? Okay, let's assign it. A little difficult to assign when my window is this small, so let's just do it here. Here are the materials that are assigned to it. I'm going to drop reflector in on there. Okay, and then I can modify the settings here so that it uses the reflection. So I want to make it more metallic, and I want to make it smooth so that you can see it's actually taking that reflection data. Now obviously these are not aligned properly, so the reflections don't match up, because obviously my probe is up here and the cube is down here, so the reflections don't line up. The way you would fix this is to put a reflection probe right where this is. The system will blend between different reflection cubes. Generally you don't use this for real-time reflections in that regard, you just want to use it for lighting information. So it looks like it's getting some reflection from the environment, even if it isn't in real time.